Perfect. Well, yeah, no, welcome everyone that's joining or just joined. We're just going to wait a couple seconds just to make sure everyone kind of trickles in okay. But we're thinking just to kick things off, we'll start off with a poll on your screen, and we'd just love to hear your thoughts really. And we'll give everyone a moment or two to answer this question here. But yeah, it is, what is the most exciting thing about working within the engineering space? So we'll kick off with that poll for everyone viewing. But while we wait for that, I'd like to kind of pass it around the panelists as well. So yeah, what do you lovely ladies think is the most exciting thing about working in the engineering space? Doris, you're next to me on my screen, so I'm going to come to you first.
Absolutely. I think for me, it's definitely making a difference. I work in the pharma industry, and knowing that I've put 7 drugs in the market, one way or the other, I know I've saved a lot of lives, and it's just a wonderful experience to meet some of those patients that were in deathbeds, and now they're like totally cured of their disease. I think that's my #1 driver.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. Jenny, what about yourself?
What I love is the versatility of the role, because engineering really, they teach you how to solve problems. And with that mindset, there's so many things that you can do. And then on the second one, then how I choose what I do is where I can make a difference. Very similar to Doris.
Yeah, no, I think they're all so important, isn't it? It's kind of hard to pick which one, but yeah, no, I like that. And what about you, Tracy?
I agree with Jenny and Doris, but I also like the challenge and accomplishment, working with others to achieve something you couldn't do on your own.
Yeah, I bet so many people go like behind the scenes to make these like pharmaceutical products. Like it's such a huge market. So yeah, definitely a lot of teamwork involved in this. And last but not least, what about you, Patricia?
Well, for me is the ability to create, and be able to design and use different, working with different people and put all the minds together and like Tracy say, overcome the challenges all together. But is that creativity, like, unleash that creativity, working with others.
Yeah, I like it. I like how you've all gone for different ones as well. But yeah, hopefully that's, yeah, there we go. We got our viewers saying that the ability to make a difference seems to be the clear winner. But a lot of love for all of them except salary, which is a bit of a surprising one. But yeah, like it. But yeah, no, I'll kick this off now. So let's get this show on the road. Good morning, afternoon or evening, folks, obviously depending where you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining, and yeah, welcome to such an exciting event for BioTalent Social. So just so you know what to expect, there's going to be like an hour of panel discussion with a live Q&A at the end of the session. If there's an appetite for it, and then like a half an hour of networking as well, if we wish to continue the conversation further. But my name is Charlotte Sweetman. I'll be the host of this webinar alongside my colleague and brilliant chair, Dan Jeffries. To give you a bit of background about myself, I'm a team leader here at BioTalent, and I head up our engineering division with a focus specifically on the US market. But yeah, I'm not only passionate about growing diversity within the engineering space, but just creating awareness across the full life science cycle. So yeah, really glad to get this started with you lovely ladies. But yeah, we want to make this discussion as engaging as possible. So if you do have any questions for our panel throughout the webinar, feel free to ask them in the side panel or in the Q&A section, and we'll definitely try to get through as many of these as possible. But lastly, before we kind of kick things off, please note this is recorded and will be uploaded on our BioTalent Social YouTube channel, where you can also access our upcoming webinars and podcasts. So, but yeah, I'd like to now pass you over to our chair for today's session, Dan.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Morning, afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. So I'm Dan. I'm the sales director here at BioTalent. Really excited to dive into this discussion. So yeah, without further ado, let's get to meet the fantastic women that we've got on our panel today. I'm going to do what Charlie did. I'm going to go from left to right as I can see it on my screen. So Doris, if you could intro yourself, that would be great.
Absolutely. My name is Doris Neville. I'm a chemical engineer by training and by education. Got my bachelor's, master's, and PhD here in the US, and I came from South America. And then I started working in big pharma. I worked for Merck for 13 years, then at Amgen for around 12 years, and now I'm a small biotech called Praxis Precision Medicines out here in Boston. I've been mostly in the phase 3 to commercial stage of a drug, so very close to being validated and go out to the markets. And because of that, I've lived around the world. I've lived in Singapore, Puerto Rico, Ireland, and many places in the US. I enjoy fantastically my job, and I've done this for almost 25 years next year, and I couldn't see myself doing anything else. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Doris. Welcome. Jenny?
Awesome. I'm from Puerto Rico, and I'm also a chemical engineer, and you'll see a lot of similarities in here in this panel. But I've been also in the pharma world for about 23 years. The very beginning of that career, well, not at the very beginning, the first 17 years I was in manufacturing and quality, different roles, engineering, science, quality side head roles. And then I went to the business side, and I was a COO between product development and commercial. And currently I'm leading global talent acquisition for the entire company. So that's why I chose the versatility of the role, because I don't know, what you learn in engineering schools, you can apply in different areas within the company.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenny. Welcome. Tracy?
I'm Tracy Labs. I'm currently a senior manager. I lead an organization of about 58 engineers at Pfizer in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I've been in engineering for 29 years. I started in my education in mechanical engineering. I did that for several years. Then I took a break and got married and actually got my degree in computer science. So, but I've worked as an automation or controls engineer my entire career. I went into leadership about 10 years ago. I spent about 5 years in the steel industry and then moved into pharma. So I have a husband of 32 years and 3 grown children.
Awesome. Congratulations. That's great. It was my 6-year anniversary at the weekend, so we've got a long way to catch up. Thanks, Tracy. Welcome. And finally, Patricia, if you could intro, that'd be great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Patricia Rivera. I'm also from Puerto Rico. I'm a chemical engineer. I have 23 years working in the pharma industry. I've been a process and automation engineer and project engineering all my career. I've been working in capital projects most of my career, especially in startups and expansions as an SME and leading projects in multi-million-dollar projects. So that is kind of like where my lens is. I have worked with big top pharma companies, has Amgen, Genentech, Abbott, you name it, and Regeneron included. And now I'm working in a small company, Pacira, up and coming here in San Diego. I love engineering, and I've been very grateful to be having great opportunities and, growth and being able to be in engineering all my career.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, everyone, all the panels that we've got. I'm sure everyone watching right now is really excited for us to get stuck into the conversation. I certainly am. The focus of today's conversation is really around making safety seen, and with a focus on being able to provide different platforms for conversation around how we can improve the number of women in engineering, how we can progress more women into leadership positions within engineering, and providing a platform to discuss some of the challenges that women in the space have to overcome, and of course the solutions that you women are able to offer, and some advice there. So we'll kick off with an area that is really hot at the moment. It's been reported that Gen Z really at the moment has shifted their work priorities a little bit, with 40% more female engineering graduates than the millennial generation I'm from. Interested just to hear from you women why you think there is a larger uptake in women pursuing this field, and what may have sort of contributed to that. So I don't know who wants to kick off, if anyone's willing to volunteer. Jenny?
Sure. I believe in the power of representation. And there's just more of us out there, right? People can see a role model. There's so much focus in bringing more females into STEM fields. And you see that from middle school, actually, outreach programs, high school, universities. There's so many network opportunities that did not exist whenever I was starting here. So it's really, really nice to see that. And I see a lot of us with the role of paying it forward and making sure that we make that a reality. The funny thing, and I believe Patricia and I shared this with you, where Patricia and I are from, like chemical engineering, it was mostly females. So it wasn't until we moved to the United States that we saw that disparity. And we walked through that, but no, it has been amazing to see that change here.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't realize that. Why do you think the difference is there? I mean, it's a big question. You may not have the answer, but what's the difference between Puerto Rico and the US with that regard?
I just go back. There's just more role models. You see it more it is a field. It is an option for you. And when you don't see that out there, you don't think that that's even a field for you, right? So I think there's a little bit of that plays in there. I don't know, Patricia, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Again, I think that we share that, and I remember our top of our class, it was all females. So yeah, at least in the education portion, back when Jenny and I would both graduate, it was kind of like a lot of females. And I remember that's when I was in high school, and me when I was trying to choose what career path I was going to. It was kind of like encouraged to go and pursue the field, right? Or any other field, right? It's not like targeted to this specific field, right? But it was pursued to like females study and have a career. So yeah, no, I totally agree with Jenny. That's kind of like what it is, at least in the education field. Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Doris, what are your thoughts on that? More Gen Z females getting into the engineering space? Is it something you've seen? Any sort of thoughts or comments there?
So when I studied, in the US, there was not a lot of females. I was one of the few people in most of my classes. So it was, but I wasn't expecting to be a lot of females in the classrooms. I think the people I graduated high school with, the large majority went to STEM fields. And I think it's because we were all female. So I studied with females my whole life, and there was no male. So we all thought we could do whatever we feel like doing. And all our professors and teachers were female too. So it was a very strong role model representation. I think nowadays, when everything it's so much easier to achieve in terms of technologies in our fingertips, which before, like if you wanted to go into computers in the 80s and 90s, you had to buy your own equipment, and it was quite expensive. Right now, it's very affordable in certain parts of the world, right? Even in parts of the world where there's not a lot of technology, almost everybody has a cell phone. So I think having technology at your fingertips and seeing quickly, right, how other people can advance and be liberated by having that technology in our hands makes you a lot more empowered to, embrace it. But I definitely think it's the majority role models. Do we have those high-powered women in tech fields right now that are a lot more visible? Maybe not yet. I would say not yet. I think very soon we'll see people, women taking over. But of course, we still have powerful males in big positions, right? Heads of big companies and corporations.
Yeah, awesome. Of course, I suppose it needs that compounding effect of the trend to continue to build. More and more women are getting into the engineering degrees right now, so that knock on for the future. But we're going to have to experience that lag between now and when those women are in those positions. And as part of the session today, we're going to speak tons about mentoring. All of the women on the panel here are hugely passionate about mentoring and being able to provide that platform for mentorship moving forward. So we're going to get to all of that shortly. Tracy, I'll ask you a sort of follow-up question that we've got from this point. Interested just to hear any that the younger generation may face, if you yourself have experienced any of these drawbacks sort of in getting into the industry to begin with?
I think there are drawbacks no matter who you are. Every different group has some kind of a drawback. I think stereotypes are always going to be out there and exist. So I think for women, one of the things is how assertive you are and how that is perceived by other people can be a problem. So you have to figure out that communication piece.
Yeah, we can unpick that a little bit, because it's something that through our conversations doing what we do with women, it's something that comes up time and time again. If you're an assertive male leader, you're an assertive male leader. If you're an assertive female leader, you're bossy and people don't want to work with you for whatever reason. So I'd love to hear any of the other panelists, if you've got thoughts on that from the sort of perception piece when it comes to leadership. That would be interesting.
I don't know, I'll always err on the side of authenticity. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to cover in more detail. So I'm not going to go a lot in there. But we have the opportunity right now that we can change the landscape. Like I remember when I first started in leadership, a lot of our training was on how to behave like the guys. And it would drive me crazy because it was the only way that we will get a seat at the table. But we have a lot of numbers now. So why do we still have to do that? Like, no, the leadership style comes in different flavors. And that's the beauty of it. And I still see some ladies coaching that we're talking about the new generation about, well, that's the fact. And you have to work twice as hard and you have to do this and that. Like, no, let's stop that coaching. Let's get everybody embrace their unique self, because that's whenever they do their best work. And let's just change the landscape.
Yeah, awesome. We're going to see throughout this talk that Jenny is Miss Authenticity. She's written books on the subject. We'll plug your book in the comments and all of this as well, Jenny. If someone reaches out, they can get a signed copy of Jennifer Lopez book, but not that one, the other one that we're talking to today. So yeah, we'll come on to the authenticity piece massively, because I know it's something you're hugely passionate about, Jenny. Interested to hear from anyone that wants to jump in here, actually, on sticking with the advice to younger women at this time right now. What advice you would give to younger women who may be perhaps hesitant to either stay in the industry at the moment, or possibly hesitant to enter the industry for whatever reason? I'll pick on someone. Here
I'll
we go.
break the silence.
Oh, there you go, Jenny. Help us out. Thanks.
I'll break the silence. I always ask, so for example, my daughter, and she's still in middle school, and she said, I want to be a chemical engineer. I said, why? Because you're a chemical engineer. And I said, no, what problem do you want to solve? Let's start there. No, because mommy is a chemical engineer, you are. And then from there, maybe engineering is a way to get there, but it doesn't have to. So I think just being very passionate, maybe, I don't know if that's the word, about the why you're entering the STEM field. And because I think it was Dory who said, I was the only one in many meetings. I was the only one. That still happens. It was my case too. But when you have a big why, that's when things get difficult, that's what's going to give you that momentum to keep pushing forward. And I got to a point in my career that it got really, really difficult. And I say, my why was that I wanted to become that role model that I didn't have. And that's been my North Star. And we're going to open we're going to break the ceiling, however they say here in the United States, but we're going to create more opportunities for this new generation. That why kept me moving forward and excited about what I was doing.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. We've had a question come in here, which we
Doris was going to say something.
Oh, Doris, sorry.
It's okay.
After you.
It's okay.
No, go for it.
I feel like I always love to solve problems, and I think when you are starting in your career, or even, in school, you may only get to solve those problems if you're in the right place. If you're not in the right place, you may hear about the problems. And I think what you should always do is that if you like solving problems, solve problems. People will love you for solving their problems. Even if you're not invited to solve a problem, solve it for them. And you will be they will be so thankful because maybe they don't have the time because they have 20 other problems to solve. And this is not their first thing in their agenda. So if you solve, even if it's a small problem for them or something that will optimize their day or optimize something in the plant, and if it's minor, but it's a problem that's solved and it's done and it never comes up again, they will love you for it. And I think for me is that I stick around because I love solving problems. If problem solving ends, I'm going to look somewhere else to find more problems.
I love
Yeah,
that.
I'm going to add to that. I think also is, to add to that is the perseverance, is the challenge. You have to be able to overcome the failures, understanding that a problem, you will not be able to solve it right away. It's that challenge of like, hey, you have to be committed and be able to persevere, right? And I think is that to add to all my colleagues here, I it's is that part, right? And I think that it may be look hard at the beginning, but see once what Doris says, once you see that you solve that problem and it's over, the reward at the end, it's priceless. It's priceless. I can tell you that.
Yeah, awesome. Tracy, was there anything you wanted to add to this before we move on?
I agree with what they're saying. I have a son and his girlfriend who are in college now going into engineering, and every time we talk, we hear a little bit about uncertainty if they're going to stay or what are they going to do. And we've talked through, think about where you want to be at the end, go to those job fairs and see, if that's an interesting job for you, then you know what you're getting to. You might not like a class or you might not like certain things you're doing, but you have to look at getting through some of those things to get to where you want to be. So short-term pain for that long-term joy of what you're doing.
Yeah, I love that. There's a saying that I've heard throughout my career that persistence beats resistance. And I think it's always becoming more and more true as these sort of more barriers come up, more challenges are there, but hopefully we're able to work through a lot of those. So yeah, we've had a question come through that we can jump onto. If anyone else has questions, you can type them in the chat box. But something that I think a few of you may have some insight on. Jenny and Patricia spoke about the great things that happen from sort of working internationally and being based in a different country before, but we had a question about the flip side of that. Are there any challenges that you've experienced when working internationally or across different cultures? So looking maybe less at the gender thing, more of the sort of race or nationality thing. So yeah, interested just to hear any challenges that you guys have experienced.
Yeah, absolutely. I would, when working in Singapore, is a very different culture. Very different from the US and very different from South America, Latino culture. And I think one of the things that struck me at the beginning is that many times when I said, let's do something, right? Or let's kind of get on with it. Or can we do something, right? Very politely, may we do something? And their answer was can. And I always thought, okay, that means they're gonna do it. And I realized can meant they know how to do it, they could do it, but they're not agreeing necessarily to do it. So it was more like you had to understand where they're coming from, hear their ideas too, and when you're there, you have to be part of the culture. When I lived in Ireland, you gotta do tea time. The best conversations I had, the more problems I solved was during the tea time than during floor plan meetings. It was amazing. Everybody was at tea time. Everybody was relaxed. They were there for tea, but it was shop talk. So I think you have to understand the culture, understand what are things they believe are important in their lives, like what do they value, where are their values, and you have to assimilate their values and try to get what you want to get accomplished at the same time. So it takes a little bit of time, but if you're just very open and you listen, I think everything comes to you in a sense of like, this is who we are and this is how we operate. And we would love to help you, but please accept who we are. And I think that's number one, inclusion. They include you in their culture, you include what you want to do in theirs, and it works really, really well. not always seamlessly. There's some rough pains at the beginning, but I think that's it. Like being open to not doing it always your way. There may be a better way.
That's awesome. And Doris, you have lived everywhere in the world. So you are the queen of cultural change and adapting. I can maybe share a personal. So for me, when I moved from Puerto Rico here to the United States, I think for many, many years, what success looked like and behaved like, it looked like a certain way. And I don't know if you guys are seeing this, where I'm putting like a little square. And if you were outside of that square, then it was, no, we're going to coach you because we want you to be successful. So we want you to be like the square. But people forgot that I came from a different culture. The square was not my natural place. And I was the bubbly one. I was the one that I was engaging with people, and I use humor to create trust. So it's just a different way. That's how we operate. It's all about the family. We have a good time, but that doesn't mean that we cannot make serious decisions. So because of that I got a lot of perception about, wait, can I trust you with a real job? These are feedback that I would gotten, like, we almost didn't hire you because you were too bubbly for being an engineer. In my first performance review, they said, Jenny, you have to dress like an engineer. So all these things that what an engineer should look like or behave like, I was getting coached on. And I said, oh my goodness, so then I have to do all of that to be successful here. But again, that's when I was not operating at my best. So that's the thing. I think people need to understand that the people's journeys are very different, and what they bring is just enriches the culture and the definition of success. Don't try to fit somebody into a square when that's not their natural space, because it's not going to be good for the company. It's not going to be good for you or the person.
Yeah, awesome. I love that, Jenny. And you lead us on really nicely to our next section, which if we can bring the poll up, that would be great. Just while that's coming up, we've had a couple of comments come through on LinkedIn. Thanks, Apurva, for singing the praises of the women on the panel here. Yeah, really embracing the conversation that's happening. That's awesome. If anyone would like to add questions on LinkedIn, feel free to do so. They come through to us here as well. So the second poll we've got for our audience is, how important is authenticity for you, specifically within the engineering space? I imagine most people on here do sit within the engineering space, but if you don't, feel free to respond anyway, because I think the topic of authenticity, especially from the perspective of what we're talking about right now, to promote women in industry, is always going to be relevant. Jenny, we're going to kick off with you because I know this is a huge passion for you. How do you apply authenticity in day-to-day for you, and why do you feel it's so important?
Yeah, I'm just being me, and part of it, just to keep going the dialogue on what I was saying, just part of the feedback I was getting, right, about not looking smart, not dressing the part. I needed to be more articulate with my English, more data points. Are you technical? And I struggle a lot with that kind of feedback. And the more and more I try to correct, like I changed everything I wore. And it's funny because I'm wearing black today, but I'm usually very colorful on purpose because the feedback was that I did not dress like an engineer. So my whole wardrobe was black, white, and gray. And one time my mom came to visit me and she said, Nena, parece que vas pa un entierro. So it looks like you're going to a funeral, because everything was black, white, and gray. And I tried to behave differently and less humor and more serious. And it was a mess. I really got lost in that whole journey. And I said, you know what, when I do my best work is whenever I'm my bubbly self, that's whenever I can connect the best with my team, etc. So that's whenever I also say, okay, I'm going to be that role model I didn't have, because you can be a leader, you can be Latina, you can be bubbly, you can be all of that and still be very successful. So I make a point of being myself. This is not fake. Like you see here, you see at church or my Zumba class or with my kids. But it's just for people that's just my style. And Dan said, I did write a book. It's called Intentional Unicorn, if anybody's interested. But I really live by that every single day.
Yeah, awesome. Let's throw it to one of the other women as well. Doris, what are your thoughts? Authenticity, anything we can add?
Yeah, I think like Jenny said, you have to be true to who you are. I remember I was in the other place where Jenny was, like all my friends when I grew up, everything was like, oh, you should dress better, you should get more makeup on, you should make your hair done. And it's like, well, my mom never did. I grew up in that environment where that was not valued, right? So when I came to the US, I fit in the engineering style because I do like loud colors. I didn't wear red today, but I do like loud colors, but I'm not like the kind of, I'm very bubbly. I take very close. I remember one of my first comments in work was that I don't respect personal space. I didn't even realize there was such a thing as personal space, but it's a very US thing. So I believe that you have to like what you do in order to do it day in and day out, because it's easy to be somebody else if everything's going well. But when the tough gets going, like when something gets really, really tough, if you're not who you are, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, it's very easy to just quit. And I feel like that's when all the colors come out. You know, when every day, when there's a great day at the office, right, and you're releasing your IPO or you had a launch of a new product, everybody's happy and everybody gets along great. Like, who hasn't gone to a party and had a great time? But it's those other times when you have a failed batch, when you have the FDA knocking on your door, when the big picture come in, that's when the true colors of people come out. And that's when you realize who is there for success and who's there to have your back, especially managers. When you do a mistake, if your manager has your back, you are going to know ASAP. And those are the managers who you're going to call up and you just assign them as a mentor. You don't ask permission. You just call them whenever you need something, and they slowly become your mentors and they coach you because they truly have your back. And I think that's where you start gravitating to. You start finding your crew. You start finding your community. It could be inside of work, could be outside of work, could be your friends, but that's where you realize how valuable are those relationships and why you should stick to them.
Yeah, I love that. I'm really conscious that we're all wearing black or gray now. I'm going to wear the most colorful shirt to the office tomorrow. Anything that we want to add to Doris and Jenny's points there?
No, I totally agree with them, and especially in engineering. And again, it's a beautiful career, and again, to solve problems, overcome challenges, and work in a team. I agree. You have to be authentic to yourself. You have to understand who you are, and also who your team members are too. Understanding and accepting that this is who you are, but then this is the personalities of the other people, right? And how everybody coexists together. Again, engineering is not an isolated field. Some people may disagree, but I don't think so. And again, if you're like, I think Doris said it, like if you fake and you're troubleshooting and you're in the tough and you're working in second shift, third shift, and it's on and it's not going on, believe me, it's going to kind of like crash all the personalities all together. So be authentic to yourself and understanding who you are, and accepting what are your vulnerable points too, right? Like, hey, these are my strongest points and my strength, and these are also my weakness, and work through that, right? And I think that's, what Jenny and Doris said is on point on that.
Yeah, awesome. We're getting some serious love for Doris's points there on LinkedIn. Sorry, Tracy, after you.
That's all right. I think when you're being authentic, you're a happier person. And when you're happier, you're more productive. And all of that together is going to build trust with the people around you. And so it builds stronger relationships, and it allows other people to be more authentic with you as well. So it works in everyone's benefit.
Yeah, perfect. Tracy Ray on LinkedIn's just made an amazing comment there saying they told a young scientist that they mentor, anyone can get up, go to work every day, but to get up and go to a career you love, your life has meaning and you have passion and you will thrive. And I think that really summarizes everything we're saying here and ties in really nicely with Doris's points around the elements around psychological safety and being comfortable to bring your full self to work and to be that person that you are outside of the office, the site, the facility, whatever it may be, and bring that person into the professional setting. And Doris, I know it's something you're hugely passionate about as well. We've spoken offline about some McKinsey studies that we've seen that really outline the role that psychological safety has in benefiting leaders, helping them develop specific skills. So wanted to just start off with you as we move on to a section here about psychological safety, just to hear how you've created your own safe spaces in the workplace. You mentioned a little bit there, but love to really double click on those things with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, early on, as many of you may have experienced in your career, it was sometimes maybe tough to get a word in when you're in certain meetings. A lot of people talk. A lot of people love to hear themselves talk, and therefore it's very hard to get in there, right? And you may disagree with the majority of the crowd. I think when you agree, it's very easy to speak up and like add on to the conversation. But maybe you disagree with something and the ball is already rolling. I think those are the times when I really, I'm actually proud of myself for saying something. But basically, if the ball is already rolling, right? The plan is already there. There's a project manager. There's everything is laid out to do something, and you truly disagree with it. But at the same time, you're leading that project, right? But it's given to you. This is what you're going to do. This is the timeline. You're the engineering lead on this, and you disagree with it. And you know, I've gone sometimes to my manager and be like, hey, I don't think this is going to work. Like, I don't want my name on this because I don't think it's going to work. And then a week passes, 2 weeks passes, and the ball is still rolling. You can see it. And for me, it was like, ooh, I could see disaster going. And to be frank, like, it got to the point where we're going to go into this big meeting. People flew around the world for this one big meeting. And I told myself, you know, in order for me to feel that I said my piece, is that I'm going to write a memo. What else to put it on writing, right? So I wrote a memo just to my boss, not in the quality system, not in an email. It was an actual piece of paper. And I gave it to him after the big meeting with the big people where everything was laid out. This is what we're going to do. And my boss read it. And I pretty much said, look, I will do as I'm told, but I truly disagree with this, with how the project is being handled in very particular ways. And what would I do different? And why do I think one will fail and one will not fail, or it has less risk, less money, and shorter amount of time. So somehow, between the time I gave him that paper at 4 p.m. in the afternoon after the end of that meeting, till we went to breakfast in the morning, everybody's in the same hotel, they had changed the plan. Just like that. He made all those phone calls in the middle of the night and changed the whole plan because he truly believed what I wrote. Now it was black and white. Like, he had a star engineer on the project and he believed in my capabilities. He knew that I knew best instead of, you know, the people at the corporate level who didn't really do the day-to-day business. And for me, I was trying to be safe because I'm like, at least I have this letter. I gave my piece, I did it my best, but I'll still do what the corporation wants to do. And I think after that, he has become a great mentor. He has become a great manager. And, you know, like, we still chat, right? And I think that's what you do. Like, as I said, you look for your tribe. And sometimes maybe you don't find that psychological safety in a public environment, in a big conference room, but you're always going to have those coffee chats, those quick Zoom calls, those like, hey, I need 2 seconds of your time. And you'll be shocked to see how many people would actually help you if you just reach out. I think the reaching out part, it's sometimes paralyzing because you feel like, oh, can I really call the VP? Can I really call the you know, the project manager? Can I really call the owner of this product and tell them this? And you just should, just to save you time, just call them up and you'll be amazed how easy it is to find somebody to just listen. And maybe they disagree with you, but they definitely will listen to you. And 9 out of 10, they will help you out.
Awesome. Anything anyone would like to add to that?
Yeah. Oh, you can go.
Oh,
No, well, for me is, I think that because I'm an only child, I think that I'm always driven by meeting people and get together with people. And for me, like Dory said, like creating for me that safe space, it's understanding my network around, not only my network around work, but also my network around my personal life too, because it's a balance, like the work-life balance is true a balance. So you need to understand those two things. And, and I love internally what Dory was saying, talk to the project manager, because most of the times I am that project manager. Sorry. So, but it's just that it's just understanding and understanding where you're navigating and what are your key people to talk about certain things, right? You're not going to have everybody identified to talk on everything, right? You're going to have this and your husbands and your mom, dad, or your colleagues and that coffee. Oh my God, that coffee break for me, it's key. But that building a network, it's so supportive to create a safe space for you to just talk about it, to understand where like, hey, this is where my struggles are. And again, be vulnerable with yourself. Again, we talk about authenticity, but you need to understand who you are. And that's and be open with your network. And that network will drive you along the way through your career. And also I'm going to add to, which I applaud you, Doris, which is like, it's part of being brave to be able to talk about what really it's right or wrong in a respectful matters, but talking about what is right or wrong for you, right? It doesn't matter if it's something technical or it's something that bothers you, but you have to be able to discuss it, use your network, use your mentors, use everybody, but be able to overcome that fear, because most of the time when we're going to have those tough conversations, we have in our minds so much roadblocks about, oh my God, before that conversation happened. And actually that conversation, it's even more simple than we thought. So be brave about having those type of conversations about if it's technical or even it's personal, right? Hey, I don't like this way of communication, or I don't like this. So you have to be brave and overcome those type of fears.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add something super quick from the point of view of a leader. Never underestimate how important it is to create that culture of psychological safety, because that's where everybody can thrive in their authentic self and speaking up. Like, imagine if Doris wouldn't feel comfortable in writing that memo, that project wouldn't be probably a disaster, would have been a disaster. So it's really, it doesn't happen by itself. You have to be very intentional. I remember at the beginning of my leadership career, people would say, oh, that's just superficial stuff. Like, no, that's the foundation. Once you spend time on having that culture, the results are going to speak for themselves. The organization is going to thrive. And even in this role, because I'm relatively new to HR, in my first town hall, I had one employee who stood up and nicely challenged one of the decisions that we made as a leadership team. People were like, oh my God, career killer, I can't believe he said that. And I was actually applauding him. Thank you. Because I want people to speak up, not people to say, yes, 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 great. No, don't say something to me and then say something in the back. Tell me what you're saying in the back too, because that's the only way we can grow and do well.
That's exactly it. That idea around radical candor that's become so popular in recent years is so true. Nobody has time to deal with saying something here and then something there. That transparency around communication is so important. I love that point, Jenny. We've had a couple of questions come through, and I know you will have so much to say on these topics, so sorry, we may have to do a follow-up to get some additional points in. We had a couple of questions come through on LinkedIn that we'll just sort of get a quick response to there, and then we'll sort of wrap up the last 10-15 minutes talking about mentoring and mentorship, because I know that's a really passionate thing that we're all very interested in, and it looks like the audience is as well. So Aysenur Demir, I hope I pronounced that correctly, on LinkedIn has asked, I'd love to ask the participants how they overcome the instinct or need to prove themselves and at what point they realized it. And Badma also, a similar question, said, have you guys ever felt shy or intimidated by colleagues at work? How do I build my confidence? So if anyone wants to jump in on those questions, that would be great.
Ooh,
I-
go ahead.
I was
Tracy,
just going to
say
say,
something else.
on the shy and intimidated, I like to say that I'm an introverted extrovert, and sometimes I think you have to challenge yourself to little things like I'm going to say hi to so many people I walk by in the hall, whether I know them or not, or I'm going, you give yourself little challenges like that to slowly grow your own comfort factor, because it's getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I love
Sorry, Jane, you can go.
See, we're very passionate about this subject. I would say, I mean, like some people call it, I don't want to label it, but I heard the whole thing about imposter syndrome. Like we all have it. And I think we all have these like two voices in our head. One of us is saying, you're amazing, the sky's the limit. And then the other one is always saying, who do you think you are? And they're fighting the whole time. And actually this is like a little fabula or fable. And who wins is the one that you feed the most. So there's a lot of intentional work that you create confidence by experience. You create confidence by putting yourself in new situations, even when you don't know the how in the world I'm going to do that, but you're confident that you have done even like bigger things before. You have the learning agility, you have the mentorship, you're not alone, you're going to figure it out, and you're excited about it because you're going to be your version 2.0 at the other end. So I think that's really, really important. There are many tricks about confidence, but you have to control also the narrative. So the whole thing about what was the overcome the instinct to prove themselves on and on. Oh, gosh, I've been there so many times. And at some point I say, I'm going to stop complaining about it. I'm going to own the narrative. And I'll give an example. For my 17 years in manufacturing, I did many things. I was in API, I was in devices, I was in dry manufacturing, parenteral, all these different things. But in the culture where I was, you grew up in one area and that's it. You are born, raised, and die there. I don't want to say die, but you know what I mean? Like that's your thing. But because I did so many things and animal health, I remember a very, very senior leader who said, Jenny, I think you're lost. Who are you? I don't know. What's your home? And I say, actually, no, I'm your biggest talent here because I have experience here and here and here and here. And because of that, you can place me wherever you want. And I'm gonna thrive there. I'm gonna help you succeed. And he's like, oh, I didn't say it that way. So control your narrative. Don't let anybody have that control.
Yeah, and for me, it's been like, trust in your skills, trust in your education. And I think that for me, the realization was, when I stopped myself comparing to others. I think that when you go and comparing to others and the journey of others, that's when your own journey just gets lost. And that's when you're trying to prove yourself, but you're trying to not prove yourself. You're just trying to prove that you can do that, or you can, hey, I'm just following somebody else. And I think that that's when I just, at least in myself, I just realized, no, I just need to be true to what I want. This is my skill sets. I am capable to do that. I have this education equal to others. This is what I bring to the table. I have a voice, regardless if you're an extrovert or introvert, right? I always say that to my team. It doesn't matter what personality you are. The personality is just how you are and how you communicate. But the skill sets, it's just your knowledge. That knowledge, it's your tool. And that's when I just realized that I cannot follow somebody else's journey or trying to prove somebody else. I just need to follow what I know. This is my skill set. This is what I bring to the table. And also understanding that this is a journey of engineering, that it's always a learning curve. It doesn't matter how many years of experience you have, you will always be learning something new. So that is when when I kind of like realized that part of myself.
I think to just close on that topic, it's something when you want something so bad, you will do anything to get that. I remember when I learned to sail, I was dying to leave the East Coast and go to the West Coast because there's much better weather there. And I took a job that had nothing to do with what I was currently doing. I was not going to get a pay cut, but pretty much a pay cut. New organization, new everything. I was totally out of my element. Like, I did not know what these people are doing, but I'm an engineer and I could do it. And the person who hired me actually convinced me to take the job and saying, all those skill sets you have, they're transferable to what we're doing here. And I believed her, because my goal was like, I want a relocation package to live in this country so I could buy a boat and I could just sail in the Pacific Northwest. That was my goal. And I literally left our wonderful colleagues, wonderful everything, just to go there and sail. And I did sail to wonderful places. I lived in Fiji for 30 days. I lived in Pacific Northwest in a boat. Like, it was a ton of fun. And I realized, everything I've done before in my career, like, even though it wasn't exactly the project, I could use it in that. And as long as I believe that I could use my skill set for that, yes, there was always the naysayers, of course, or somebody said, we don't do it that way. And I said, yeah, you don't do it that way. I did it your way and I did it my way. And we'll do the experiment both ways and see what works. And guess what? My theoretical worked and yours was kind of like not so great. But I know that that's how you always did it. So I had both set of data and you can make a decision on either or. So I feel is that I think that was the first time that I wanted something personally so bad that I kind of put everything on the side to do it. And I realized, wow, I'm much more valuable, because like Jenny said, like, I didn't think it was worth me to change my whole, after 14, 15 years doing one thing and totally switching. I went from drug substance, small molecule, to large molecule drug product. I was like, am I putting my career in jeopardy? And at that time I was like, well, in 3 years I'll probably just sell the world and not do engineering again. So why do I care, right? And I realized how much more valuable my skill set was as an engineer. And that identity that for me was like, my identity was exactly my job, my resume. And that's not the case. Your identity is who you are and all the skills you accumulated from school, from work, from friends, from your day-to-day life. That's what you bring into the table.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. Got so many questions about sailing the world but we'll save those for another time. Listen, we've got about 7 or 8 minutes left, and we've had loads of questions come through about mentoring. So we can get super practical with advice, but we'll sort of cover the mentoring side for the last sort of 10 minutes or so. To kick off, interested just to open up to the floor, and I know Tracy, you mentioned beforehand that you had some great experience with mentorship, so I'll start with you. How have you experienced mentorship throughout your career, and how has that impacted you either as a mentor or as a mentee? Let's give as much practical stuff as we can do for the audience.
Yeah, I've had several relationships on both sides. I had a very strong mentoring relationship with a director here at work that was a female, and we formed a friendship, but it was a safe place to go if I needed to vent or if I needed to ask questions. But also, if I'm prepping internally, we have internal interviews for different positions and promotions. If I'm prepping for that, everyone has those dreaded questions about strengths and weaknesses, and it's always hard to answer those. And so I had someone I trusted that I could say, I think these are my strengths and weaknesses, and someone that can, she would say, that's not a weakness. That's and sometimes people around you see your strengths differently than you do. And I think mentors really help you. If they get to know you well, they can help you see them as well. So I think that has a good impact on your self-confidence and how you move forward. So that helped me with that relationship.
Yeah, awesome. Patricia, let's throw it to you here.
No, mentorship for me, it's been great in both sides, right? Early in my career, and I think that I said it, I wish that the mentorship and tools were more available, right? But now these days, it's, there are amazing tools available within your own company or even outside external. For me, it's been a journey about understanding what I want, understanding understanding my own plan, understanding what is my current state, understanding what I want in the short term, what is my short term, what is my long term, and understanding that the plans are always evolving. And not only that, is that plan identify not only one mentor, identifying multiple mentors, because every different mentor will bring different skill sets that will help you along the way. It is not that only one person will drive you, and that's the, that person will be the savior of your plan. Understanding that, right? Understanding that, hey, I'm going to have different type of mentors, looking for them. And I think that I said it previously, it's the network. It's understanding your network, right? What is your network in your personal and career wise too, right? I think that Doris mentioned it, or Jenny too, and all you guys have mentioned it. The strength and weaknesses, they're not coming from your workplace, they're coming from who you are. So that is where building that network comes through, and the mentorship is very important, because that's how you're going to identify them, and understanding that the mentors, they're just for in a specific time too, right? And the mentor may come and go, right? So that is also very, very important too. I also being a mentor to others, and being a mentor to others is also another piece, because as a mentor, you also have to be open that you also are learning to, right? You're learning from that mentee, and it's an evolving space where both of you guys are like, open and being like, you're listening and you're learning and absorbing from this mentee, but then you're also helping and guiding, which is kind of like beautiful. But I think that has helped me a lot, understanding where's my state.
Yeah, awesome. That's something I wanted to ask Jenny quickly for the last couple of minutes, actually, because that idea of mentors coming and going, and having mentors that are right for right now, but you have a career change like Jenny's had a couple of different times in different areas of the company she's worked in. I was curious, have you had different mentors throughout different stages of your career, Jenny, and how have you gone about finding those people and bringing those in to support you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mentors, a lot of people think that they're only for career. No, mentors can be for a specific subject, strategic thinking, somebody who's really good at that, somebody who's really good at executive presence or influencing executives, work-life integration. It can be mentors in different aspects. So don't think about it just for career. One of my biggest mentors actually worked for Zumba Fitness, because I also used to work for that company at the same time I was doing my engineering role. And after a fitness event, I sat down in front of the vice president, and we're just eating, super hungry. And he's like, so what do you do? And I told him I was a chemical engineer. He's like, I'm also a chemical engineer. Like, no way. So we connected, and he's been one of my biggest, because he's not from the company I work with. So he helped me really dream big and think outside the walls that sometimes we put ourselves, and just bring like totally different aspect. He's not in the pharma industry. So in that context, it's been very, very important for me. And one of the ones that's why I've been in board of directors, proximity is key, right, to some of these people. So don't think only the people that are in front of you. Expand, and don't be shy about asking. I just asked them, hey, do you want to be my mentor? And he said, yeah, let's do it. And it's been a fantastic one.
That's awesome. Doris, you've got the final minute. Anything you'd like to add on mentorship? Sure. I think the best way to get a mentor is just ask for help. Like, even in resources that you wouldn't think may be helpful. I think the first time I got a mentor unintentionally was I needed to get in a class in undergrad. If I didn't get in this class, I will be delayed a whole semester because it was a prerequisite. And I just talked to the teacher. I just talked to the professor. Hey, this is my situation. And he asked me all my background. He asked me a lot of technical questions. And he's like, you could take this class. Don't worry about it. You don't have the prerequisite. I'll just sign the paper. And I was like, oh, there's a paper. There's all these things I didn't know about. And I just was in the class. Was it hard? Yes. Did I have to learn all this extra stuff to do the class on my own? Yes.
But even in you know, when I started working, I needed a mentor because I wanted to go for my PhD, and I just saw somebody in the cafeteria, I recognized them, I just talked to them, and then before you know it, I just said, hey, I need some help. And everybody will help you. And before you know it, they become mentors. And some of my colleagues are mentors in, you know, a lot of different aspects that you would not think. Like I was told early on in my career, that's a little bit too loud and I was a little bit too honest, and they were shocked that I hadn't been fired yet because I was so honest. And like I learned, oh, this is how the American culture deals with that, or it's just a way of talking. It's just a little bit different. It's the same message, but you're saying it a little bit different. So I think you just get mentor. I mean, my 4-year-old teaches me something every day, right? So it's just you just keep your ears and your eyes open, and you never know. You never know. I was learning how to raise sailboats to cross the Pacific, and I remember this older lady came to me and said, "Why are you listening to that guy? You do it better than him. Just because you're listening to him, he thinks that he has, you know." And I was like, "But I've only sailed for a year." He's like, "It doesn't matter. You do it better. Stop listening to naysayers. Just do your thing. And unless somebody corrects you, just keep doing it." And I was like, oh, okay. And I realized I sell better than this other person. So I think is just keep your eyes, your ears open, be open to the opportunity to fail and to succeed.
I love that. That's such a powerful way for us to close this conversation off. So thank you, everyone. I feel like we could speak for the rest of the day on all of this. We'll definitely have to get a follow-up in, right? But yeah, thank you, Patricia, Tracy, Doris, Jenny. This has been awesome. Thank you to everyone that's joined on Zoom or on LinkedIn Live. That's about it from us over here. Charlie?
Yeah, no, just kind of echoing Dan, just thank you so much again to our fabulous panel, for your amazing insights. Like on a personal level, I just found this so interesting and insightful. So I'm sure like every woman and even man, you know, watching this in the engineering space has found this like absolutely invaluable. So yeah, thank you so much to you guys. But yeah, quick bit of information for the audience and for those that are like new to BioTalent Social. We are part of BioTalent and we are a life science specialist agency. You know, we specialize in the full spectrum of life sciences from preclinical all the way to like commercial. And you can find out a little bit more about us on our website, biotalent.com, if you'd like. But yeah, just to wrap it up, I know we're kind of running out of time. So yeah, just thank you so much for listening, and please do stay tuned because there'll be plenty more webinars where this came from. So yeah, thanks guys.